And we can start... Oh, let me open one of these as well so I can keep track. All right. Sylvic. How you doing?
Yes, sir. Not too bad.
Yo, 226 now. What are your goals, aspirations? What have you done so far? How can we help you today?
So right now, I just got to a point where I can do Party Lomian. I'm pretty happy about that. The biggest thing for me is I'm looking for ways to progress. Like, I'm just having so much fun with the game. Little bit of background on me. I've played the game for on and off probably between 10 and 15 years. I can't remember exactly when I started. But of course I was shit then because I was really young. And I had a buddy that was like, oh, well, if you can't one-shot a boss, you probably shouldn't be doing it. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? You're right. These bosses seem really hard, being a young kid and on Windy at the time, where you could just buy gear. So it was like, oh, I'll just buy enough gear and then one-shot the boss. And I'm like, wait, this isn't fun.
For some people it is, you know. As empty as I think it is, I think for a lot of people the motivation is just get big numbers, blow things up in one shot, and then, but it just feels to me like that could be fun for 1 or 2 times, and then it's kind of, you're over it.
Exactly. I think it could be fun and satisfying, but not necessarily fun as like, oh, I just did a 10-minute boss fight, but I was able to get it down at the very end, or I played really well. Like, that's a really great feeling. And that's what I've been enjoying. I think the great feeling comes from how much work went into it, and how much you felt the movement up to that point, and then it becomes the epitome of like of all the work you put in. Absolutely, and I think that's what I've been having a lot of fun with. My stats slightly changed from when I had originally sent them to you because I decided to go do a totem because my nodes are really lacking, and I'm pretty aware of that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so I hit a couple of levels, and then I hadn't claimed my potion from the compensation, and so I claimed that, and I was like, I don't know if I'm actually going to train this week, so I just decided to down it.
So 230 now, or?
226 is where I'm at.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
I was at 223 when I sent you the stuff.
I see. Okay.
I see the discrepancy, so I wanted to clear it up.
No worries. So you've got way more matrix points now. So what kind of stuff have you accomplished so far, and what's like next on the list, I guess?
So I did a 6-man Lomian party. My little brother plays as well, just not quite as no life as I do. And so I've been able to help him through like the CRA bosses apart from Vellum, but I think I can do Vellum. I soloed HMAG yesterday for my first time, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, you got the kit for that with the knockback resistance, or knockdown resistance, I should say.
Oh my goodness, it's so easy. I can imagine that fight is literal hell for most other classes.
And try Marksman, where your damage is based on distance.
You're like, all right, I'm going to take 2k per tick, but I'm going to stand on this side. It doesn't matter.
And no healing, yeah. For the longest time, that was my nemesis, yeah. That was just...
That makes so much
push
sense.
half of my buffs, 2 skills, dead. But, like, for the longest time, man, that guy was so annoying. For Marksman, yeah, it's your arch nemesis. And then it's Arc or Shadow, where you're just going in there, full knockdown resistance, you just blow him up. It's good shit.
So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Next goals are like doing smaller parties for Lomian, and possibly eventually moving into Lotus, as well as like trying to figure out where I need to change my gear, because my gear looks a little stumpy, I guess. Like I'm still wearing a Necromancer glove because there's just such a good flame. I just didn't feel like I could pass it up for like a Penciler glove. Yeah. But I'd like to replace that, and so I assume Absolab is kind of the next logical step. Yeah,
pretty much. There's a bunch of gloves. Like if you get a good Penciler, you get a good Necro, you get a Von Leon. Some people go Dimension Invasion gloves, some people go Cygnus gloves. Some people have like a higher Star Force, the Ramaru glove, so that they can transfer that over into Absol. Like all of the, or like a Commercy, like a Sweetwater glove, right? All of those are basically just in the exact same pool. As long as you get them like Epic with 6% or like Unique with 9% or something like that, an OK Flame, then that's just the placeholder. There's no real set bonuses attached there. Like there's nothing special going on there until you get to Abzo, really. And then you have Abzo for a while until you can move into Arcane, basically. It's a little bit of, there's no real distinct way to go, which I think is cool because that means that there's not really any wrong options there. But for a lot of people, it might feel that they didn't really fully commit to anything, and therefore that they might be doing something wrong. But I like the fact that there is no distinct one thing that you have to do, because that means that everything is right, that nothing is wrong. But
it also kind of encourages you to play your own way, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I really have been enjoying the Legion grind overall. I haven't done a super great job on it, but it's one of those things where it's like, when I log in, if I wanted to go play a brand new character for a little while and just enjoy the feeling of the class, that's something I can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in doing that, have you kind of categorized them for you, and like this one is more fun, this one is, this one I'm gonna throw potions at, this one I'm gonna terror burn. Are you looking at that?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I definitely have.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of characters I definitely want to terror burn. I can't get into Zero, and you might look at my Zero and be like, yeah, well, you haven't even started playing it. And I'm like, I hate this quest line.
Yeah, well, that's sadly one of the only characters that you can terror burn. They never allow it.
Exactly. I really wish I could terror burn it, but
Yeah.
I need to go through the grind. But it's like every time I look at the character, I'm like, I'm gonna switch to a new character. I'm gonna play Battle Mage instead, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So are there any other classes that have popped up that you feel like are also enjoyable that you might want to like play on the side a bit?
So I have a 201 Adele. I mostly leveled it as a bossing mule, but the 5th job skills actually really are awesome and flashy. I'm super into the very flashy style. Battle Mage is a potential as well. I actually have a Marksman as well, but I mostly started playing Marksman for the memes and for the crit rate, and then I was like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting to play.
Yeah, I think their
I have
Destiny
an arc
update
that's-
looks really promising. Same with the Shadower
Yeah.
one, actually. Destiny for Shadower looks
I'm
really interesting.
so pumped. That's actually what ended up putting me on Shadower initially. It was like, I was like, I'll just suffer through it and then I'll wait for Destiny update. And then I found out that like I even enjoy current Shadower like the most that I have in the game so far. And so I was like, I'll just stick with it right now.
Yeah, it was interesting to read that the way that they talked about Shadower was like, we didn't intend people to play the Shadower like this, but we appreciate the play style, so we incorporated it into it being the actual kit now. But apparently they didn't mean for it, like the meso explosion weaving and everything, they didn't initially mean for that, I guess, which was, like people were gonna do that if it increases their damage, right? But I guess it made their mobbing way better than they anticipated. But now they just were like, okay, well, let's just make that the kit then. Yeah.
Which I'm happy with, honestly. I think that's it's a lot of fun, and even though it was unintended, I like that they're kind of capitalizing on it. And Boomerang Stab, although it is my main mobbing skill, I'm very excited for that to go away.
Yeah, it's getting like a new name, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what the new name is, but it looks so much cooler, and it has a bit bigger of a hitbox, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Boomerang Step was really weird. It was a weird time for the longest time because attack speed never applied to it, which they found out like 7 years after implementing the skill or something. And then they had
sounds about right.
Then they had to like activate it, but then slow it down because it was kind of balanced around not working. But then it was a interesting time.
I'm very excited for the day when we'll be able to flash jump and hit our main mobbing skill. Easily.
Not when you're
right
already
now
on the
it's not
ground.
easy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're getting that up jump as well, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. My brother clowns on me every time we do Golics together because I don't have an up jump, and he's playing.
You got a rope
He
lift
has
up
a
there.
hero and Dawn Warrior, and they both have up jumps. He's like, imagine not having an up jump, and I'm like, oh, you're right.
The worst part is having an up jump, but not it not coming with 100% knockback resistance in the beginning. Because then sometimes you up jump, but you just get hit by something and you just fly off diagonally into space and not anywhere near your target. It's like this. Who thought it was a good idea to give an up jump to someone without knockback resistance? It's so silly.
That's so bad.
Yeah. But okay. So I guess it's interesting. And when it comes to like, because you did mention the term no lifing, what kind of play style, what kind of like income, dailies, weeklies, how's that all looking?
Dailies, weeklies. As soon as I finish the pre-quest for Lotus and Damien, I've been doing those weeklies. I make sure to get every boss that I can kill reasonably or even with a party. The only boss that I haven't done this week yet is CPAP, but that's because CPAP has been a nightmare for me so far. He's hard to learn initially, but I know that as soon as I kind of get it down, I'll be able to probably handle it.
I think so. Dark Sight, you can stand in the rifts. That's one.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. And I think...
Changed my whole world right there.
And I think Smokescreen immunes the damage from the touching laser beams completely.
That would make a lot of sense. It's pretty actually... I found that it's overall easy to iframe with Trick Blade because you get a giant animation on your screen that says, hey, by the way, press your button, dummy.
Yeah. Yeah, but
so
the lasers touching is like multiple multiple one-shots. I don't think the Trick Blade iframe is long enough for that.
I wonder if I've been surviving via my smoke screen and attributing it to Trick Blade.
That's possible, yeah. But I would definitely, yeah, if you're just going in practice mode or going in regular mode, definitely try to, in the beginning, like being in Dark Side, if you can stay. Is it like Shadow Walker or
Shadow
something?
Veil keeps you in it.
Yeah.
Shadow Walker also with your burst.
Yeah.
And then smoke screen can also keep you in Dark Side. You should be 100% in Dark Side for most of your fight, usually.
Yeah, because you don't really have long bursts, right? But you probably still use the bind.
Yeah, I still use Urta to bind because even though the burst isn't technically long, like your uptime damage is actually quite high. You know, you've got Assassinate that it's just very consistent damage, I think. So.
Well, so the way I'm thinking is like in the beginning, I would like start at his left, throw down probably like the Shadow Veil. Well. No, you probably want to do your big burst in the beginning, right? And then he does rifts, you stay in Dark Side, so you don't get hit by that. You wait for the lasers to, I don't know, get to like, what is it, like 60 degrees or something? And then you dodge like 1 or 2 of the purple clocks, and you bind him. And then with the bind, you can make sure that he doesn't summon any more clocks during that the lasers have to touch, and then you can just physically block them because you can still stand on the rifts. And then when those are gone, then for the next ones that might be more dangerous and you might be out of position to have to dodge the lasers from touching, then you can use a smoke screen for that one.
Smoke screen.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Something like that. But yeah, try to draw him out of position, right? In the middle is the easiest to dodge to block the lasers from touching. And if he's there, then you know the purple clocks are soon to follow. And then you can iframe, but then that draws you out of position, and then you no longer block the lasers, and then that kills you.
Yeah, I've run into a couple of very silly situations that end your life very quickly because you're just like, oh, I need to iframe, but that moves me and like it displaces me from the laser, and you're just dead.
Yeah.
It's like, ah, yes.
Or the claws, like, oh, well, I guess I went 1 inch too high. Rip.
It makes me feel like I'm on a ship and there's like finger-sized holes breaking into the ship, and I'm trying to plug all the holes with my fingers, but then like a 11th one comes out, and I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah. Start putting your toes in there. Yeah.
Exactly.
I can see the cartoon now. You put your nose in the other one.
That's exactly what it would be. You know, Popeye with the big nose, just like slamming it in there. And
oh, I was thinking Pinocchio. Yeah, that works.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Popeye could block one with his chin. So, yes. All right. So we have a good background. We know where you're at, where you want to go. Oh yeah. Well, like playtime and totems wise, how are you doing with all that?
I've not been earning as many reward points as I think I probably should have. Like previously, I started actually playing seriously like mid-January, and so I'm still trying to get up to speed with maxing out on reward points. And I'm using MapleStory M. I'm doing a lot of my daily bosses. I don't always do them if they're not going to actually progress my gear, but maybe I should be doing them all the time anyway.
Have you looked into Monster Collection?
Yeah, I've been using a little bit of Monster Collection. I have like the Hidden Iliad Field guys and the Vanishing Journey. I have one Vanishing Journey set. And then I have been just using like trash ones like the, what is that called?
Yeah, just
Reanistrate ones.
Yeah.
And so I've just been sending those out pretty constantly. And I know I can unlock more of those. I just gotta actually go and find some sets.
Yeah, there's the... There's probably like the Ephenia set is probably pretty easy to get, I think. I think two of them are in like the
down.
PQ, and then the rest are in the... Yeah, because I went through it recently to see like where all the sets are at. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of them now, of course, so that's not... Like, look back and just get these forehead. Like, I think the pink bean one is also decently achievable. Mainly because it's scalable, right? If you get multiple characters into pink bean.
Absolutely.
And you can do normal and chaos, and then those are different, but the other ones, you know, and Leica's in there, but you can farm Leica basically. Which some people already do for the cards as well, so then you can kind of do 2 birds, 1 stone kind of thing.
I actually need to do that run because those are the only ones I'm missing is like the 3 bosses.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. I only went for it myself because I got a Leica because every time I went to Pink Bean, you know, doing dailies, weeklies, I had the drop rate coupon on, and I would always kill the Leica on the way there. So I got like 2 cards that way from always doing it. And then I opened one of them from a booster pack, so I was like, okay, now I just need to get 1, so I'll get the last one. I'm not sure about too early trying to go for all 3, because if you don't have that much drop rate, it might actually take quite a while.
Yeah, and my drop rate is quite lacking. This is brings up one of the questions that I was bringing to the
I mean, it's pretty normal for your stage of the game, though. Like, pretty normal.
Okay,
You're not
I'm glad
walking
to hear
around
that.
with like 350%. Like, that's perfectly natural at your level. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So you said Ephenia, Pink Bean, Temple of Time, like the Temple of Time area. What were the other ones that you were saying that I could do?
Yeah, so I'm mainly just looking for the 24-hour ones, right? That makes sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Black Mage, you can do that one. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'll write that one down. That's a goal.
This is Chaos Root Abyss. Yeah, you need Damien for that. You need AFK Mob for this one. These are all kind of yikes. I think it's probably fine to just do a bunch of 6 hours now. I think in general, it's actually more efficient to do 6-hour ones if you're playing a lot and you pick them up regularly. 6 hours actually give more than 24-hour. Yeah.
That makes sense.
There's like adequate boxes and decent boxes. I'm not sure if it's a huge difference, but like they're both like the red ones aren't all the same, right?
Right.
Even though they might look exactly the same. Yeah, I think
They all give all sorts of different things, don't they?
Yeah, this one is horrible. The pianist one, because you need a specific elite in a map that has like 4 monsters in a split map that has 4 of one spawn, and then you need to get that one to spawn the elite, and then it needs to be specific preset.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, you basically just channel surf for darkness runes. Oh,
that makes a lot of sense, actually. That's wise.
Yeah, but even then, that's easier said than done. A lot of the times.
That still sounds awful.
Yeah, it still sounds bad. I guess Horntail might be a doable one. But also,
as well.
You need 2 from a split map, but at least they're both together, and then it's regular and Chaos Horntail, so might also be a doable one. I don't know. I have the reward point video, right? It also links to a guide over on another website that also looks at like where can you go to unlock a lot of monsters quickly, to unlock a lot of sets, and to unlock a lot of slots for the exploration.
Alrighty, I got that written down. Check out the video. Yeah, I looked at that like as a base a couple days ago. Just like, hey, how am I actually going to make sure that I have like a consistent stream of totems? Because like I don't really love the idea of trying to start up a Kana farmer right now, just because we know that the nerf is coming, and I don't super love playing Kana. I would do it if it wasn't getting nerfed, I think, just because it would be like, oh, this is a pretty good idea. But at this point, it makes no sense to try to push a Kana farmer further than my main, just for it to get nerfed later on. Yeah,
it sounds weird. You'd have to, if you're planning on going super duper hard, you could, swing that. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you would have to. There would be a lot of pressure on it to capitalize on it immediately. Oh, I think he said he had these. I think he said he had those already, Joe Bro.
Yeah, I have those 3. That's one of the big ones I have.
I mean, it even has an elite in it, so.
I did a lot of training in hidden melee field.
I mean, it's like a really good area from what I heard. So.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, good map layouts, right? Okay. we'll get into like updating your and just clarifying, seeing if you have any questions and clearing up all of the systems in the game, I guess.
That seems awesome. I think that's where I need the most help, is making sure that I'm clear on systems.
Sure. Do you have any big questions that we can use as a start-off point?
Kind of like nodestone, like decision making. That's a big one for me. I have like I know it didn't ask for it, but I sent you all of the notes that I have as well. And that list is slightly outdated, but only slightly. They're not perfect notes, but I've been saving them for experience, because all of the ones that I haven't disassembled are the ones that don't go in my perfect my 2 perfect try nodes.
Yeah. So off the bat, you're going to need 4 try nodes.
Okay.
So any skill node and boost node can only be leveled up to 25, but you can boost for skill nodes. You can boost up to 30, right? 25 in a level 5 slot. But for boost nodes, you can boost up to 60 levels. So you can have them in 2 different boost nodes be active at the same time. 2 25s in level 5 slots. 30, 30, 60.
Okay.
And it'll boost up to 120 final damage on the 4th jobs.
To clarify, so for example, you see in the top left, I have the boomerang stab, meso explosion, assassinate. Because I believe I was under the impression that you could also run, like, for example, a meso explosion, boomerang stab, assassinate, and then an assassinate, meso explosion, boomerang stab, right? So you can have 3 different nodes that have the same skills. Is that correct?
The same exact 3, technically, yeah. As long as the one that like shows up visually, like on the bottom left, or the one that's mentioned as the first name, right? As long as that one is different, then you can equip both of them at the same time, yeah.
Right.
So sometimes people do that. Let's say that they have 1 or 2 skills that are very important, and all the other ones actually, are just min-maxy and only come into play like at level 260 or something. They might go for 2 or 3 boost nodes that just have those 2 in it, and then just get all of those to like level 9 or something, and then put all of them in level 5 nodes, and then 9, 5 times 3, you get up to 42, and then you get a huge boost from that, and then you kind of just open a bunch of nodes, see if you can make all of your perfect try nodes. And then once you have more slots, then you start solidifying, you start splitting them up. The main thing is if people just have like 1 set of try nodes that they need, right? So 3 skills that you want to fully boost twice, so 2 boost nodes with different combinations, different configurations of those 3. Then it doesn't, you just look for those 2, throw them in. It's really, really simple. As soon as you have 3 or more boost nodes that you need, if people are, some people have like 4 skills that are decent, but it's mainly just, or they have like 5 skills that are decent, but it's mainly 4 skills and 1 is kind of just useful. They don't take like a 4th boost node, because then 2 of those slots would be useless, right? Or you'd have to like double find an extra perfect try for a skill that actually doesn't do anything at all. Depending on the class. So that's why I have the vmatrix command, right, where you look at all of them. And what you also look at here is sometimes in the beginning, because you have very few slots, you would want to combine skills like the meso explosion and the assassinate and the boomerang stab, because then you could use just 2 of those first one that you have, and because the other one is not that important, right? That one is the one that comes into play later. So if you, instead of that one, have another combination, another configuration of those first 2, you can double boost those first 2, and that'll be pretty much a boost node that you can use anywhere, both for mobbing and for bossing. But the thing I'm getting at is that as you get further and as people start solidifying, having all of their perfect try nodes and having them basically those locked in so that you can start extracting everything else, right? So that you can specifically focus on those. You can also start looking, depending on where you are at the game, at splitting them up between mobbing and bossing. The earlier you can possibly do that, it means that you create more space for skill nodes. Right. So as you are, so boomerang step and assassinate under that would never be together, right? Because one is exclusively for mobbing, one is exclusively for bossing.
Okay, so creating kind of like a generic set of like, hey, this works for anything.
So yeah, so typically in the beginning you use, because you don't have the slots and you don't have the nodes, so in the beginning you just make one that works for everyone. And then as you go further, yeah, what is it? So your assassinate, boomerang stab, or savage blow. I guess that's because it's been. I think everyone has now finally moved away from savage blow. I think, but some people still like it in some maps. I think, but after the rework, we'll probably solidify that.
I think that was my thing. Is like it felt like shooting myself in the foot to try to make some Savage Blow perfect tri-nodes when Savage Blow I assume will be horribly outdone by rework time. So like, seemed like outpacing myself.
Yeah, and then if you don't need it at all, you replace with is it Sudden Raid?
Yeah, fill with Sudden Raid.
Yeah, because I would imagine. Yeah, I guess then it doesn't really, because you really only have one skill that's purely a bossing skill, right? That's really only Assassinate.
Yeah, everything else is used everywhere else.
Yeah,
and I've actually seen some people farm with Assassinate, although I don't see how that's useful or relevant. They were doing it, so.
Does it even hit more than like how many charges?
It hits one mob at a time.
Huh.
It hits like 3 hits and then it does a big hit of a bunch of lines, but I think they were mostly doing it to try to proc a ton of Meso Explosion.
Yeah. Because it's
because
one
it
per
procs
line,
way
right?
more Meso Explosion.
Yeah, that was one of the unintended changes when they added more lines to people. I don't know if you probably weren't around, but there was a time where the damage cap per hit was way lower, and the amount of lines that every skill did was way lower as well. But they didn't want to increase the damage cap yet, so what they did was there was a line story update where basically almost all of the skills just doubled in the amount of lines, but they cut the percentages in half, which, you know, kept the percentages of total damage equal. But of course, the people who were already capping would see their damage increase, right?
Right.
And then after that, you know, a while after that, they increased the damage cap per line as well to, you know, raise that ceiling even more. So then the line story update was kind of weird, but it was kind of just as a placeholder for the transition for the things that were to come. But one of the unintended buffs for Shadower in that was that since they doubled their lines, but the percentages went in half, everyone was like, oh, it stays the same. It's like, no, not really, because you make a meso per line of damage, right? So they actually saw their Meso Explosion damage go up quite a lot. And that's what started making that way more relevant. That and the fact that I think the weaving wasn't able to be done properly because of something in KMS that wasn't adequately ported over into GMS. So that had to be fixed first for them to, or for Shadowverse to actually be able to utilize it properly. And then once that was possible.
I know that initially Assassinate was actually server-sided, not client-sided. And that caused a nightmare for people trying to do any form of meso weaving, because if if you are getting that lag at any point, you suddenly are not in the cycle of meso weaving at all.
I think this was also around the time where, because this boomerang step was so slow, that people were started using Savage Blow as well.
Yeah,
because of the attack speed not working. But yeah, does that kind of clear up your options and your possible goals for boost nodes? At least that part?
I think so. Let me just reiterate, just
Sure.
to make sure that I've kind of got it. Because realistically, we only have one skill that actually does its own bossing, right? We have Assassinate, and so realistically, like, that node is still a pretty decent node. However, if I can find another one with an alternate configuration of Boomerang Stab, Meso Explosion, Assassinate, then it would be better to equip that overall. Because frankly, those are my main abilities that are going to deal damage. I'm not going to be
a BA, they would be the biggest percentage of
exactly.
Output.
And when I'm training, realistically, Dark Flare, a lot of people say Dark Flare is a great mobbing skill, and I completely agree, unless it's your first character on Reboot and you're still trying to push.
It does nothing
because
in
Dark
the
Flare
beginning.
just doesn't do enough damage.
It's like Arrow Blaster for a Bowmaster. Like, once it comes online,
same
it's
problem.
so good, but then it's so weak from the start. And that makes sense, right? Because it has the potential to be so good. It requires a big investment before you get it, and then it's a huge payoff.
It's a giant payoff, right? Being able to clear like one platform and keep mobs from clumping up. I totally get how important that is. But like, when my Meso, for example, is literally having to like 20 hit monsters, I have to do what is going to be realistic for me, regardless of what actually would like work for, Sacrix or anyone along those lines. Like,
Yep. So in this situation with the amount of slots available, if you can get another configuration of the first 3, that would greatly be able to enhance your gameplay, and the other one would just kind of like be retired for a bit until there's more room for it. I mean, when you're mobbing, you probably throw it in instead of your what is that last guy called again? I want to say like Death Blow or something.
Sonic Blow. Yeah.
Sonic Blow, close enough. Yeah, because for mobbing, that
Sonic
does
Blow is
do
not
anything,
great
right?
for mobbing because you have to stand still.
Yeah, and I don't know if you throw in Trick Blade at all when you're mobbing.
So Trick Blade has its other version of the cast where it's basically Chain Lightning.
Yeah.
So it's like a super great mobbing skill because you just press it and it just like goes across the screen.
Okay. And a pretty short cooldown too, right?
Yeah, it's like a 12 second or 17 something. 14 total, actually. I just looked at it.
Yeah, so you might be looking at... so I think that will help you quite a bit. And also both for the bossing and for the mobbing, right? But the extra understanding as well of the fact that you need to eventually will set you up for success faster. And, it's better to know that early than later, rather when they're already like super high level and where you probably already got rid of like 25 of the ones that would have fit the bill.
I've actually been looking for the double up and I haven't even seen one yet. I think I've been a bit unlucky there, but you'll see my weapon in a second and you'll be like, there's all the luck.
Okay. Look forward to that.
But yeah, it's so another question, just last question really fast. Do you want to go for a total of 3 of the same? Like, because that doesn't work though, right? Because if you have this leveled up to 25, you put it in a 5 slot, you couldn't equip 3 of them because you can't get to 90, for example. Does that make sense? Is that right?
You could equip 3, but it will just cap at 60, and the third one will essentially do nothing and just take up a slot.
Oh, okay. That really kind of saves my bacon because I was like trying to find all 3, and I was like, how am I going to find all 3 here?
Yeah, if you would find all 3, then you can get them to like level 15, right? All 3, and then in level 5 slots, and it'd be 20, 20, 20, and it'd go up to 60.
But you're wasting a spot.
Yeah, and as well, if you eventually, you're wasting a spot, exactly. And if you have to extract your boost nodes, you also only get like a fraction of the, a fraction. Technically a fraction, not like a very, very small fraction, but I think it's like a 1/6 or something like that, or a 1/5 of the shards that would allow you to make another one. So the further you go, like I said, like in the beginning, some people do it. I would say like up to level 6, 7, 8, 9, it's probably okay, but I would never go level 10 or above, because if you're then extracting, you lose so much potential. And since nodes are already so scarce early on, it's probably better to just bide your time a little bit, take a little bit of an L, lower level areas, and then be able to pop off once you get into the higher level areas.
Absolutely. And I guess the last question I have, and then we can move on, is should I be, because I have all of these extra nodes that you can see, should I be extracting all of these to try to create ones that are actually going to be useful for me? Or should I hold on to them so that when I actually can like upgrade my boost nodes, I just have a ton of boost nodes to throw at it?
Yeah, so if it's you're only keeping the ones with the 6 skills basically, right, that you would want to boost, everything else is getting extracted. Yeah, I would keep all until you find the ones that you want, then you can immediately throw those on that map onto it and then extract the rest, and then from that point on just only hold on to the 4 that are the starting skills of the 4 tri-nodes that you decide to level.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yep. I would probably double check just with like Shadow Discord or something to make sure that the upcoming changes for Destiny are taken into account with your boost nodes.
Absolutely, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Because if some skills are changing, now is a good time to lock that in, right, without having to... I believe the Orange Mushroom post had it on top, though, so I can look it up real quick. I believe they put it on top on what the changes for all the boost nodes are going to be. It wasn't that major, if I remember correctly. Oh god, this thing has to load like 16 million pages of information, of course. Where was it? Here? No. I think he put it somewhere separate, I thought.
The matrix changes in the list. I think it's a bit further down.
Okay. I thought he had it up. Oh, it was here. Oh yeah, it is quite far down. Shadower. Sure. Boomerang step cores have been changed to Cruel Stab. Oh, that's the name. Or at least the KMS name, you know. Steel cores have been removed. Existing cores that enhance steel will be changed to a different skill based on the following rank. Okay.
Oh, wow, that's actually kind of big because those are 3 nodes that are actually good for me. So it actually might be worth holding on to a couple of steel nodes right before the change, and then it'll be like, oh, look, I have a perfect.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it is like another 3 months away, so hopefully you find them before then. But
I'm sure I'll be able to collect a bunch. I've only extracted a bajillion steel nodes because that's the ones I feel like I can extract. So
yeah.
Shouldn't be a problem. Now I won't find any now that I've extracted a bunch of them.
Yeah. Now that you know that you could actually use them, now they're going to be completely gone. Yeah, off the grid.
That's funny. That's quite clever. I forgot steel was going to become a passive. That's going to be really fun to play with.
What is?
Steel. The ability that allows me to either knock health potions out of monsters or knock damage potions out of bosses.
Yep. Which, I mean, that's how it should be. It's kind of really weird that there's like a
Agreed. It's really stupid that it's a second job skill. Like
it's very 2007,
isn't it?
Yeah. Very, very 2000s. I remember people using it to like stab monsters one time, then finishing them off as like a appropriate debuff to apply to one monster at a time kind of thing. Yeah, it was a little bit of a different game back then. Like you would do oh god, like as a paladin, you would have all the elemental charges, and then you have the skill. Oh fuck, what was it called? Was it like elemental blow or charge blast or something? And it would blow up whatever element. It would consume whatever element you had on, but then it would hit multiple monsters at the same time. You know, crazy. And it would do a lot of damage. So you would like charge blast, and you have to reapply the charge every time because it would consume the charge. So it was like.
Bro, you know that there's at least one person out there that's like, man, I really hate the paladin changes. I can't believe that they're removing all of the elemental skills.
Yeah, I mean, it is really a shift in their identity, but I mean, it's, I don't know, yeah, it hasn't really been that crazy.
I feel like it's pretty good for the class fantasy, though, because like the class fantasy right now feels so dumb. You're just like, oh, I'm a holy warrior, but I'm hitting with ice.
Yeah, it really was an elemental kind of knight in the beginning, but now they seem very much into the Mihail territory, so I'm going to be interested to see how, like with the next update in KMS, how they're going to kind of redo Mihail to make sure that he keeps his own element and we don't just have 2 holy warriors going on, because then it's, because you got Bishop and Mihail and Paladin all like kind of
filling the same slot.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing that I think is great about Maple is that you have so many classes, but they really are still pretty distinct, which is kind of impressive with how many there are, right?
Absolutely.
And playstyle as well. Okay, so Matrix is good?
Yeah, we're good there. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Anything else that you had that you need to get figured out?
I was going to ask about Abso priority. I assume that it's like different based on situation, right? It wouldn't make sense to be like, oh, you should always go for X or Y.
Yeah, rule of thumb is just you pick whatever is the biggest upgrade first, typically.
Right.
It's usually how you go, so, which most of the time is the weapon, but you already mentioned that your weapon might be kind of lucky.
Yeah, it was...
a little bit, yeah. So...
Yeah, I actually didn't even mean to roll it up to Legendary at the time. I rolled with a Meister Cube. I thought I was rolling with a Master Cube, and it rolled to Legendary, and I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And I panic bought 5 red cubes, I think, at the time. And within those 5 red cubes, I had the 30 attack.
Yeah. Yeah, so the weapon might not be as necessary.
I don't know that I want to change yet. I think I kind of like what I have right now.
Well, the great part is also you could... Man, I could see you electing to just go for like a high Star Force Fafnir instead, and then bypassing the Ebzo weapon or something. I mean, the Ebzo has really nice base attack and everything, and then the flame can get really good. But yeah, that's a whole lot of money to invest to get. Yeah, when you already have this. Plus, you can get a lot of backups for this once you start regular killing C-Vel. So it's a pretty safe thing to try to pop past 17 comparatively. I mean, that's why we do it with all the other CRA gear as the earliest gear to go past 17. Not that you're at that point, but I'm thinking of like a future prospect is how much do you really need to get the weapon. Yeah, that seems like a pretty low necessity for you. especially also because the 5-set Abzo was nerfed, right? In the sense that they moved the boss damage to the other pieces. I could see you keeping the Fafnir weapon and just making 4-set with CRA and then having 4-set Abzo on the side, because you will enable the 4-set CRA, which will actually give you 30% boss damage, which will make it better than going into the 5-set Abzo. Or it will require a whole lot of money into Abzo before that gets better. And Abzo is really temporary now anyway because of moving into Arcane. So I see you not even getting the Abzo weapon at all with this potential on it.
Okay, so probably don't ever move into Absolab weapon.
No.
But obviously Absolab, like
all the other pieces,
shoulder,
yeah.
every other piece that exists. Yeah.
Well, not every, right? Not the overalls and stuff, but typically what people go for is the shoe, the cape, the glove, and the shoulder.
Is the reason that you skip the overall just because number one, Fafnir has a top and bottom piece, and so you can get 2 potentials?
Yeah, it's 2 potentials, 2 sets of Star Force gains, 2 flames, a set bonus. That just overpowers whatever Absolab can do in itself. And then on top of that, you get way more backup, so you can reliably go way higher. And then all of that together, you know.
That makes a lot of sense.
That even overpowers the Arcane overall, you know, even if you're going like full Arcane set. Because there again, that set bonus, not good enough. The flames are going to be way higher. The Star Force stats are going to be way higher. The potential is going to be at a higher tier. But even all of that together is just not good enough to outweigh the CRA.
Than having 2 pieces.
Yeah, the 2 pieces overpowers it. But on top of that, it's way more reliable to get 21 or 22 star CRA with how many backups you can get. Because you can start piling on backups so early versus Arcane, where with all the droplets and with all the it just doesn't make any sense. You just stick to the CRA, and because you stick to the CRA, you also min-max higher on it because you know you're going to keep it longer, and that makes it even harder for anything to replace it, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Maple has a very unique pacing system of like upgrades where it's like what you can sink time into getting consistently is what you should keep. I really like it.
A lot of times, yeah, or you use it as fodder, right? And then you can go very high on it. Like let's say you get the pink bean belts, those are very easy to get, but then the superior belt is really hard to get. But then you have the transfer hammer system. You could just get a whole bunch of pink bean belts, blow a whole bunch of them up, but get eventually, hopefully, get 1 to high stars, and then transfer hammer that into the superior, and then all of the risk of blowing up the superior is completely eliminated, and all the risk is on a gear that is actually really easy to replace. So then you can save money on having to safeguard as well, and that turns out in the end to be financially a good decision. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And on that topic, when you look at my gear overall, what do you think is lacking? Where is it like is there any spot where you're like, wow, I can't believe you still have those earrings? Like you could probably replace those. That's pretty easy. Because I think that there are probably some serious gaps in my knowledge that are not necessarily shooting myself in the foot because I am playing the game and enjoying it, but things that I could be like, oh, well, that's an easy way to upgrade.
Well, I wanted to make sure that all the systems are in place first and that we have all of that like taken care of. And then we'll circle back to the equips and make sure that all of that stuff is because then a lot of that will make more sense faster because we'll have better we'll make sure that we're foundationally on the same page when it comes to like where does damage come from and how can we in general move your account forward, all that stuff.
Totally, I'm here for it.
Okay. So with like Legion and Lynx, I guess, did you have any questions there?
Not too many questions. Link skills, I think that I just need to look like at the Shadower Discord to figure out like what's my optimal link skills for like, DPS and training. I kind of have an okay sense.
Crit is still weird for you, right? Because of the building.
Crit is Yeah, when I asked in the Shadower Discord about crit, because crit is such a nightmare for Shadower right now, they told me, hey, still go for 100%, just completely ignore the fact that you have
140 sometimes.
Yeah. It feels so terrible because I'm like, okay, I need to go figure out how much crit I have. I'm going to go do some damage and watch my crit rate go down and see how far it goes down and pray that I can figure out like what the difference is. That feels terrible.
Yeah, it does mean that if you go like up to 90 or something, it's not as bad because that means for most of your hits you're over it. But if you're optimizing damage, you essentially just go for base 100 and then everything else goes over. Luminous had that for the longest time as well, where they had this thing where if their HP was higher than their MP or the other way around, that they would just gain like 20 crit, but you couldn't rely on it all the time. So you basically just had to go for 100, which meant that like 95% of the time they would be at 120. So that's changed for them as well, because it's just, it's just kind of silly. You might as well not have it at that time.
I need to what's the word, like efficientize my hyperstats a little bit with my links, because I am almost guaranteeing that I'm probably going way over even 100% crit, just because it's difficult to calculate for me overall. So I think there is definitely a problem there, but I think I know how I can fix it. It's just taking the time to like sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to write down every source of crit that I have, add it all up and say, oh, I'm at 130%. I guess I can take X amount of hyperstats or not grab my phantom link or something like that.
Are you taking any temporary crit right now from the event?
Yes, actually, let me look at what I have on the event. I totally forgot about this. I should have sent this over. I only have 10% critical rate, the 2 of 3.
Yeah, but
so I even have higher crit there.
Just to make sure that if you're doing that puzzle right now, you're like, oh, this is how much I have now, and then like I fixed it, and then a week later the event buff goes away, and you're like,
90%
fuck, now I'm like 10% off. Yeah, that would suck. So I have the crit rate and crit stat like little thingies. This is critical damage, critical rate. So you could just use this, like copy this for example, and just put like the number next to it, how much it is, and then kind of do the maths that way, and that way you won't forget anything. So this also has like event buffs and stuff, so you can take that into account for now. The main thing that what that would do is, you know, maybe you, instead of selecting the Phantom link, you would select the Beast Tamer link or something, you know, if you had both of them at max level, because then you're looking at 20 and a 10. So then it's like, oh, you can get 10%, okay, take away Phantom, replace it with Beast Tamer, and then basically gain 10% boss damage that way, while still, you know, retaining the 100%.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
The game does show you where your crit comes from, but it's kind of clumped together in ways that make sense for the game, that are like logical for the game, but it doesn't mean that you can exactly, especially if you're kind of new to the game, know exactly what is counted where. Like if I look at my Dell, it's at 107, it says 5 basic, cool, 60 from skills, and then 13 equipment, 29 Legion assigned members. So Legion assigned members is your member bonus and your grid bonus together. Equipment item is your potentials, and your badges, I know, are together there. And then skills is your base skills, your own skills, and also your link skills. I don't know where, I think hyperstats might be its own thing if you click that.
Yeah, so mine says hyperstat 11%.
Yeah, hyperstats is its own thing. So you still have to know how things get categorized in there. It can help you though, and then, you know, because I see 13 and I'm like, what the fuck, that's a weird number, because I know I have 12 on my weapon, but then immediately I can be like, oh, the extra 1% is probably from a badge, right?
From a badge and familiar.
Yeah, but it's really weird that would count as an equip, but it does. So, you know, you kind of have to know those things. So it might be good to just start with the list, and then you can figure out how it got mentioned in game, and then you can use the game as a reference just to build up to that understanding, I guess.
Yeah, I think that the other problem is, like, I have flip of the coin, which thank goodness that's getting changed, because it's so hard to remember to keep uptime on.
Yeah.
Because it also gives you critical rate. It gives you 10% per stack, and so you get 50% from that. And then already my skills without that current buff on, I have 120% in skills, and so it's like, okay, but how much of that is real? How much of that isn't real?
Yeah, you almost just want to strip your character, see where you get, and then build up from there. Yeah.
And then build up from there, right?
I think with the is that the hyper skill that you could use after you hit a crit or something?
Yeah, so every time you hit a critical attack, you can use it. It stacks 5 times, but it has 2-minute uptime, which is completely different than everything else that we have. We have like 3-minute uptime on all of our other regular buffs. So I literally just put it on shift so that I just will randomly press it while I'm doing a meso weave.
I see. I had the way I always learned it, at least for mobbing, is that you put boomerang step and that skill in a macro together, and then you just press the macro, and it'll just automatically refresh after every boomerang step, basically.
Oh, that's a good idea, actually. I should try that and I'm gonna do that right now. anyways.
Because since it's so fast, it doesn't like delay your attacks. I don't know if it could fuck up your meso weaving though, but you might be at the point where the meso weaving is not doing as much damage as you want to anyway. So it's kind of like a meme you press, but it's not. If you can hit something off screen where you otherwise wouldn't be able to hit it, but it's not like a reliable killing machine yet. I think, right?
It can be like minorly handy with like, for example, when I'm training in Lachlan, I do about 99% of the monster's HP, and then a meso can just fly out and smack it and kill it.
Yeah, finish it off, yeah.
And so that's kind of how I've been training lately, as well as it will pull things like from the, like on the side of the house. Things will come over because they got hit with a meso and they get aggroed. And so that's kind of useful. But also, Boomerang Stab, I don't think, and chat can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you can actually like efficiently meso weave with Boomerang Stab necessarily. Like you can't make your attack speed faster with meso weave, as far as I understand. Because you're still trying to like jump because you're trying to keep moving, and so they don't actually like go together super well, I guess.
Yeah, I remember Cynthia made some videos on it. There's some videos under Shadowware, but
yeah, I've watched a couple of Cynthia's videos, and they definitely helped clarify how they work. But it was one of those things where it was like, now I just need to put it in practice. And I'm still trying to get down 100% meso weaving with like even just assassinate. But most of meso weaving's like damage comes from speeding up assassinate, as well as always getting your what is that called, body count passive. From Shadowware Instinct, or not Shadowware Instinct, but from body count itself.
Yeah. The animations look pretty sick too. Posted these.
Oh, I cannot wait. Did I hear that they like went back on the red meso explosion that is the boss targeting? Because like I super liked the idea.
Yeah, they were kind of moving around with that. They added some stuff and then removed it. I think they just have God, is it like yellow on mobs and red on bosses or something? Or
yeah,
they made it two separate skills, and now it's just one skill that just does one thing on mobs and one thing on bosses, I think.
Oh, okay. I'm fine with that.
To like simplify it a little bit.
That does make it feel a little bit easier to not have to like swap out like your key, or in any case having both keys.
Yeah, because if you're at like 120 without coin, I think you do take. I mean, coin stacks are something you can always keep up, right? Because someone also said you can also just macro boomerang step and flip of the coin as well if you're bossing, and then you can always keep it up that way as well. And if that really goes up to 50%, then that would be something that you rely on for your base crit rate, which definitely means that the hyper stats won't need as much. And I don't know if you're getting from your Legion now, or you're not getting from your Legion now.
I'm getting a small amount, I can get a small amount rather. I can get like the first two areas. I'm still working on Legion, but we're getting there.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully Link Skull-wise that clears that up a bit.
Yeah, that's quite clear.
What areas to look into, yeah. And for Legion, you're good on like the order and what characters to go through.
Yeah, just knowing like, because like the order that you have them set up in is like the most efficient as far as leveling. And you can see like I've followed it in some aspects, and then in other aspects it was like, I really like this character, I'm just going to keep playing it.
Yep. Good. That's what I want.
I would rather just enjoy the Legion grind, like no offense intended, but getting Demon Avenger to 140 is going to be a grind for me. Because I'm not a fan of Demon Avenger.
No, dude, everyone loves it. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I've heard that it's like the most fun class in the game from everybody that I've ever talked to, but I don't see it. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's like I'm having a lot of fun with the leveling. Like Iran took me forever for some reason, like 110, and so slowly getting everything up to the point. I'm hoping to get like my Ho-Young leveled up, because I actually really am enjoying Ho-Young as well.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to do the Legion grind. As you can see, I'm a little bit ADHD in the way that everything is around level 128.
Yeah, season 129s, 126s.
Yeah, it's all scattered, and it's funny because like I made my Ho Young like is like the second latest character I've made on this list, and yeah, it's 146 because it's just like, oh, is fun. Let's keep going.
Yep. Do you like do you level them all, or do you just log in, kill Zakum, log out kind of thing, or?
I think you like there's a pattern, right? So like Pathfinder through Kinesis is my login, kill Zakum, log out set. And then like Arc was like, okay, this is too much fun to do that. Marksman was like, let's throw some level potions on it and get really wacky with it. And so it's been really fun. Adele has been like, oh, I actually care about this character. It's actually 201 now. And then Ho Young as well has just been like, I think I was going to get it to 141 and then wait until I got a couple of boost potions just to put it up a little bit higher to do like notebooks, because I really like that map. And I looked over and I was level 146, not level 141, because I was just enjoying the class and leveling with it just naturally.
Good.
And so yeah.
Okay. So no questions there on like the order on how to proceed with Legion in general?
No, I don't think so. I think mostly I just need to, like, you know, there are a couple of characters I do need to level, but mostly right now it's like, oh, that sounds like fun, I'm going to do that.
And when it comes to the grid setup, you're getting closer now to the fact where you're getting more and more space on the outside of your grid, right? Meaning that the inside of your grid is going to lose its efficiency soon. I guess at this point makes sense that you're staying where you are, because you move all the way to the other side, you lose a lot of stats on just being on the other side.
Right.
Once you get the 4K.
I think I'm in a weird growing middle ground, and that's kind of what the thought process is behind that. Also, I'm aware that I have it put in strength. It should be luck. I just haven't swapped it over because I was playing my Adele.
Yeah. No, that's no worries there. Sometimes people don't know that you can even like swap the stats around, right? That's a more important thing to make sure the highlight.
I've seen a couple of like the progression sessions. You're like, you know, you can click the thing on the right, like the little
They're like,
arrow.
oh.
And I'm like, oh, if I didn't know that, I would have been so upset. I'm like, how am I supposed to get crit damage and attack? What's going on? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, you'll see just in how the blocks are placed. You'll see if people know it or not. Because you'd be like, there's no way you would place it like that if you knew.
You could go all the way across.
You'd be like perfectly tracing the triangle on two opposing sides and be like, oh. Yeah, this, you know, you could just like click the button. They're like, right.
Obviously, okay. No hate. Like, there's obviously, I think that I would like look at this later on and be like, wow, the block setup that I have right here is like actual ass. Like, I need to change that. This is terrible. But instead, I'm quite comfortable with, you know, at least I can move my blocks around and I know how that works. So no hate to those people because they probably are more efficient in other ways.
Yeah, there's just small things you need to know.
That early.
Yeah. I think also it's kind of intuitive if you see that arrow that it implies a drop-down menu for me, but it's not intuitive for everyone. You know, like I can't deal with Apple products. They're not intuitive for me. I try and for like 3 seconds and I get super frustrated and want to throw it against the wall because it's not intuitive for me. My brain doesn't work the way that Apple product stuff works, and I can't find what I need to find. For Android, I can't find it. At a place I used to work, they knew me as like the computer tech guy. Like I was super tech savvy, and we were drawing homes at the time. And I remember I had one lady come in and she was like, "Hey, like, you know, I work for the company. Like, it's nice to meet you. Do you think you could like look at my MacBook?" And I was like, "No, there's nothing I can do for you." What book? Nope.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, "I'm out."
Opens window, jumps through it. Nope. Yeah. No, yeah, totally feel you on that one. Yeah, so you're good for Legion, for Order. Yeah, so I guess if you keep going, you just keep moving deeper and deeper into ID and critical damage as much as you need it. And then, do you have an alternate setup for your Legion mules?
I haven't made one yet, mostly out of laziness, but I understand that I should have one that's like probably, you know, bonus XP, and running obviously their stats on like the right hand or the top side, as well as critical rate, because that's going to be a great source of just higher damage.
Yeah, bonus XP actually not that good because it's only 0.25% per block in the beginning. So like you need to fill out the entire bonus EXP on 6k to just get 10%.
To matter.
Yeah, well, yeah, and even then it's only 10%. Even then it's only the same as a level 200 block from 0 just being in the board itself. So when it comes to value there, it's definitely crit rate and then crit damage. That'll make all of your new characters very, very strong as well, because as soon as they have access to their critical rate, that'll greatly improve their damage and their leveling capabilities.
All I'm hearing is you're telling me I have to level 0, and I'm so sad.
It's really good value. Yeah, it's just really good value
so
for your
valuable.
accounts. Yeah.
I've been meaning to go do it, and yet every time I log in, I'm like, maybe not today.
Yeah, that quest line is a stinker.
It's a bitch, dude. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, normal monster damage comes in place of knockback resistance and Destiny. The annoying part there is the placement, because you'll have to do like the flat line between critical rate and critical damage, and then through the middle you have to like make a line downwards as well to go into normal monster damage.
Hopefully my blocks are way bigger by then.
Yeah, it's still gonna be first critical rate, then critical damage, then damage to normal monsters, I think. So
as a priority.
It might mean that at that point, when you have a legion that's big enough to actually reach those and do those, that by that point it might not matter as much anymore because your characters are already so strong. But critical rate, yeah, most classes once you get into 3rd and 4th job get a bunch of critical rate there, and then don't need like 40%, right? They're probably okay with like 15 or maybe 20%, and then they're pretty much capped out. So then going into normal monster damage might be more useful there, yeah. Okay,
cool, yeah. I'm glad to know that. That's actually something I had no idea about, even though, you know, I watched the patch notes. I'm pretty good at putting on like a one of your videos on like patch notes and stuff, and then immediately falling asleep when I'm going to bed. That's
nice.
And so it'll be like, hey, you watched the entire video, and I'm like, yeah, I remember the first 7 minutes.
Maybe run that by me again, yeah. Well, it's because they're giving all the classes passive 100% knockback resistance, right? So they're removing it from the hyperstats, and then they're switching it. And they already added normal monster damage in the hyperstats, so they're basically doing the same thing for Legion Grid.
Yeah, that will be super useful. Way more useful than knockback resistance. I haven't trained Mihail Link purely on principle because I know that they're changing knockback resistance.
Yeah, they're going to change it into something with extra abnormal status resistance instead. But
sounds pretty bad if you ask me.
But
you might be like, actually, it's super important.
It gives you a lot, but only for a short duration. So I really wonder where and how we're gonna find utility for that, because there's the abnormal status resistance to percentage is a logarithmic scale that's very unforgiving. So
that makes a lot of sense, actually.
So yeah, I don't know how good that's going to be. We'll see. We'll see how KMS figures it out.
We can hope, I suppose.
And then 6 months later, we can copy what they've figured out to use it for. If it matters for us.
Isn't that convenient?
Yeah. Okay. I guess then Familiars is probably like the last thing in here that you have on the bottom. Are you kind of up to speed on where to look for there? I see you have some stuff.
Yeah, more or less. It's more just trying to actually collect them for my character, because I'm obviously not in the arcane river areas that will give me good familiars. And so I've kind of been, you know, characters I don't care about as much, I've been semi-cannibalizing like occasional familiars, not every one of them, but like just sending them over to this character just to see if I can, because I would love to roll another 15 IED.
Yep.
That would be super useful for bossing. And then right now I just don't feel like I want to be able to get the pack of cards every week, but right now it's just not gonna super work for my character, just because I'm not making enough points to be able to do that reasonably.
Yeah, the main thing is because you're leveling your Legion and Sakum, so you're getting nothing from those characters.
Exactly. None of those characters are giving me cards, as well as I'm not getting any during my main bossing, which is kind of unfortunate. Does that pick up at Asphera? Is that the area that you start to actually get them again?
Yeah, Moraz can drop them, but very rarely people train there. And then Asphera would be the first area where they drop, where people would consider training. Then you have Celis after that doesn't drop them again, but then Moonbridge is usually for most people the main area where they start gathering a lot of them. But yeah, a lot of people you'll see going at the spiders at Asphera and staying there a bit going there as soon as possible for the cards, because that is a big value, and the sooner you can get normal amount or large amount of drop rate, of course, the faster you can start scaling up on making those unique familiars for the boss damage and the IED and all, and the big healing and all that stuff.
And that's definitely what I'm looking towards doing. Although, I mean, it's 235, and I don't do enough damage in Arcana right now to actually train there efficiently, so it's like that's pretty far off. But I want to get there quickly so that I can get like the good IED familiars to get the bigger drop rate familiars as well. Because like I've only ever found like small ones, and then finding out the hard way that they didn't stack was kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't want to be the guy who's still like at Limina and level 278 trying to find their second boss damage familiar, because that's just
exactly that
hurts
feels
your soul.
That would feel terrible.
So the faster you can start, hopefully the sooner you can be done with that.
Exactly, and I look forward to that, and that's kind of one of the driving factors, which is a weird thing. It's like, why are you training so hard so that you can get to a point where you can get familiars? And it's like, because I want to get the cards and I want to open the potentials and get good things and progress my account. Yeah,
move forward, yeah, you don't want to get like bottleneck like that. That just sucks. I hope they find some way of adding the familiars to the higher level areas, because now the only motivator is EXP, which is a big one, but it's the only one. And then there's just overwhelming value in Limina instead for people to stay longer there, and that's making Limina into a giant bottleneck, which is, I think, very negative to player experience, especially if you combine it with some channels being suboptimal, right? And I'm still working on the channel quality. That's a bad combination of things.
Oh, absolutely. I see all the time people like, anyone leaving 1.5, and I assume that those are Limina maps that like people are like desperately trying to get into so that they can.
Yeah, if you look at the world map, you look all the way on the top right of Limina. There's like end of the world, and then there's 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, and they've added 1.7, but the layout there is just goofy. And then there's also 2.4, 2.5, and then the 2.6 is also a weird, man. I don't know. There's one of them, I think 2.6 sometimes has Kanas in it, but, you know, like desperation, because everything else is full, basically. It's usually like the 2.5s, and then the 1.4 and the 1.5, I think, are just most accessible to most players. And it's one of those, if you have, you know, the kit for it, but most classes can train there properly just because of monster respawn and the map layout, but some classes can just lazy farm there, and it's almost like old CLP where you're just like standing in the middle and just hit left, hit right, hit left, hit right, and you're good. So
okay, that makes sense. Unfortunate, but hopefully they'll change that by the time that I'm able to get up there.
Yeah, hopefully you can.
I'll just
hopefully everyone is like been pushed through that area, and so by the time you get there, it's opened up.
Exactly. I'll just cash in on all of your guys' suffering.
Just
take all of the niceness when
Yoink.
When GMS finally breaks. I'll be like, yes, this is so convenient.
Yeah, I'll take this map. Yeah. Pray that JMS adds it. Yeah, I believe for Familiars so far we've always just been. Well, it's not like JMS adds it and then we copy it from JMS. It's just that KMS develops it for foreign servers, and then we get it. But it seems that JMS and MapleStory get very similar stuff to us, and they usually get it just like right before us because of the release pattern. But yeah, that'll be a big indication.
Seems so backwards.
Yeah, because there are smaller regions, but I mean CMS is like a pretty small region too, like percentage player base wise. But I think it might have more players than KMS because of, you know, just being such a massive fucking country. But
I know China's usually like a big hit as far as like
any mobile style stuff does.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
Well. Yeah, and MapleStory
anything
definitely
that runs on something like low end. Not to say like like it's just one of those things that you know, if the game's good, they play a lot of it. Like PUBG used to be like very like that era, and then they took away blood for like 10 minutes because it was like, oh, we want to sell this more in China, and it was like, wait a minute, we should just make a different version of the game for them. And so then
they did that. They tried to take away blood. What like did confetti pop out? Or
they were trying to like make the blood like not exist because it was like, oh, it's easier to sell in China. And then they were like, yeah, maybe this was a really bad decision because all of the players were like, why do we have to suffer because like other places like
they were like, taking it away everywhere.
Yeah, they were going to take it away globally, and then they were like, maybe we should just do this for China. And so I believe their blood is purple now. It's kind of a weird situation.
No idea what that
Anyway.
is. Just purple liquid. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're really just playing paintball. You dying is just you getting really tired and falling down. It's not a big deal.
Like, oh, you just time out. You know, you just need to take a nap.
It's a breather.
Yeah.
Till the next game.
Exactly. Okay, are we good to go into the equips then?
Yes, please.
All right. Look at your backups and everything. So you're working. So how close was Vellum for you?
Vellum wasn't super close. I was doing it with a couple of people. I did a trio on my first run, and it was like a couple of other guys with 9k stat when I was about 9k stat as well. And it went quite well. It was insane, and I died a shit ton because I was still trying to get used to the boss. But then I did a duo with someone I can't remember, but someone from the guild, and that actually went super well as well. I have a feeling I was actually going to do it later today, and I was going to try to duo it with my little brother and see if I can get through like Vellum mostly on my own, you know, on my own 2 legs.
When you say little brother, he's like 11 or he's like 18?
No, he's like 18.
Yeah,
so I
that's what I assumed.
I actually, I mean that's a fair question. I have 4 brothers and 1 sister, so it's like, and they're all
family.
younger than me.
I see.
They're just like all in different like rankings, I guess. They're like, you know.
I see. Yeah, no, so like I usually say my younger sister now instead of my little sister, because I mean she's in her 30s and she's 6 foot tall, so it's like weird to say my little sister.
Yeah, that's so.
But it's like a family thing, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're familiar with like I don't know if you've seen my CRA run on my Shadowr. I mean, not to say that that's anything you could, but maybe there's like 1 or 2 things you could be like, oh, that's interesting to pick up on.
I think I've watched it between 6 and 7 times because I was so stressed about doing specifically Pierre.
Right.
But all of the bosses, because it was like me and my brother were like, hey, we're gonna run these together. Like it's kind of been like a really fun thing for us to do. Like, oh dude, we're gonna do weekly bosses. Like he messages me every Thursday morning like, bro, are you so excited for reset? And it's like my favorite thing because I'm always excited for reset because it's like, oh, we're gonna go bossing tonight.
That's cool. Yeah, and well, I mean, Dark Side is very useful, right? So you don't get the hats from Pierre, you don't get the rocks from Vellum.
It makes life so much easier. I almost feel like I'm playing the game on easy mode.
You see me dodging them automatically still, because I never played a character that does that, so I'm still positioning myself in between them. But
well, and I'm usually dodging too because it's like I'm not good enough at like making sure I have 100% uptime on Dark Sight or like pressing it right as I'm gonna get hit. But at the same time, like the amount of times where it's like, oh, I just got out of jail free because I happened to be bursting at the time.
Yep.
It's just way too much, honestly.
Okay, so you're doing some of the Commercy stuff. You're working on.
I just upgraded my ship, which is why that's lower. I had 1 Helix carry. I've been doing normal. I haven't quite gotten hard down yet. Although I was probably going to try it today because I've gotten quite a bit stronger since the last time I did it.
Okay. Yeah, maybe after you like redo the crit stuff and make sure that you have more optimized hyperstats, that could also maybe help you out
that could help
a
a lot actually.
So that's your current earring. I'm a total fan of the boss accessories because I feel like you can just go pretty hard on it. It gets good set bonus, good availability, good flames, and then the next pieces you need to get into is superior anyway, which takes forever. So you might as well upgrade that stuff. That's usually my stance on those things.
Okay, yeah. And that earring is a backup that you were looking at just barely.
Okay.
That it actually has a better flame, which is why I was holding on to it.
I see.
It has a way better flame than the other one, and so my other earring currently is up there. You see it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it is better. I don't know if it's like worthy to redo Epic with main stat better. Like if you had like a 40 and 6 or something, I'd be like, yeah, just ditch this one. That one is if you had both of them, you'd definitely pick the other one. I don't know if it's switch worthy at this point.
Okay, that's good to know actually.
Yeah, I'll probably hold off on that for a little bit, but also hold off on upgrading the current Epic, that one that you have, because if you do keep doing the boss, you know, you might luck into an even better one. And then
Absolutely.
Every boss then inherently, if it drops the piece, it gets the value of the flame, basically, right? Because you're basically re-rolling without needing to buy the flame.
Exactly. It's basically, it's between, are they 19 mil? I can't remember exactly how much.
9.12, I think, with guild discount or something. Like 9.5 base price.
So not terrible, but at the same time,
well, you're like more than doubling the value of the boss, because otherwise the crystal is just like, what is it, 6 or 7 mil or something? Is it even that much for? I don't even know, CHT. You're probably going to get close to the area where doing all of those bosses is probably going to start losing efficiency versus just training. But as you get more totems, that'll iron itself out. You'll be like, well, I have more totems accessible, so I'm not gonna waste my time on all these bosses. I'm just gonna grind it out.
Yeah, that's one thing that's like
money.
really hard to like space out, because it's like doing a boss, like for example, Chaos Horn Tails is a great example in this instance. Is like super easy, right? You just walk in, hit the boss, it dies. At least at my stat. And whereas like when it's like a totem, it's like you have to commit 2 hours to training, which I'm fine to do. It's just I need to make sure that I am going to commit the 2 hours, because nothing I hate more than wasting a totem or part of a totem.
Yeah, once you get to bigger buying power for totems, sometimes you'll also be like, I have like 8 totems left to buy, and there's only a week left in a month. There's no way I'm going to do all of them. Then you might as well do like a half an hour or an hour on a totem. It's better than, letting it go to waste.
Yeah, it's better than 0 hours. That's
exactly
absolutely true.
Yeah. But, that's a certain position that not everyone gets into. Let me quickly skim through all the equips. So, yeah, we talked about the weapon and the Abzo stuff, right? I think that's probably one of the bigger things that you kind of had looming over your head, so that's good that we had
Absolutely. I was
out.
Quite worried that I was going to have to replace that, but you saying that it's not going to even necessarily be worth replacing.
Yeah, no, that potential is too good. Plus, if you just look at how much value you would have to sink into an Abzo to improve on it, if you sink all of that money into something else instead, then the Abzo would have to be even better to, be worthy of its money, right? So it just makes more sense to... Yeah, exactly. So just push on the other things better and have good enough stuff, and then move straight from this into Arcane, basically. Which, hopefully you can get yourself a drop. So the thing that you're aiming for in your head is like, okay, how can I be strong enough with this current pieces for Arcane, meaning being able to kill hard, Lucid and hard will. That's like the longer term plan, and the midterm is seeing how you can make sure that this stuff gets you through Lotus and Damien. That's probably going to be pretty close, but then getting you through Lucid and Will is going to be a little bit further away. So it's like the short, the mid, and the long, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Point. And then the extra long is obviously Black Mage clear. You know, I'm going all the way. I've been really enjoying the long haul.
Okay. Yeah, so your secondary and your emblem are probably the second 2 strongest pieces, I'm guessing, right, from everything I saw. And we want to keep them that way. Of course, they're going to be a size smaller than your weapon by quite a bit. That's only normal, and that's allowed now by the weapon being that strong that you don't need to have as much pressure on those 2 anymore. But they are going to be disproportionately big because it's your weapon, secondary, your emblem, your boost nodes, and your arcane power that are going to be the foundation of all the damage of your character, especially when you're mobbing, so that you can go for your accessories and stuff, so you can go to drop rate and meso obtain and scale up how much money you make without reducing really your kill speed. There is the caveat, of course, that your meso explosion needs a certain amount of damage to be relevant, and the further you go, the harder that becomes by getting no damage at all from your accessories. So it would be cool if you have okay flames on the accessories, and if they have at least 1 line of stat on them as well. All stat is also decently good, right? Because you have 2 secondary stats. And that also bleeds into like flame score and looking at good flames for you, right? Because I don't know if you look through the flame calculator and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I've definitely looked through the flame calculator. I was going to do it before this, and then I ended up getting distracted on a totem and some Sunday stuff. But I am going to put every single one of my pieces into the flame calculator just to see what's lowest, because I actually have a couple of flames. Like I have 1 eternal and a couple of powerful that I could use, just haven't yet because I don't know what is going to be priority and what needs to be bumped up. So with it taking into consideration the level of each item in the flame score, there should be no problems with me just saying, hey, this is the lowest one, try to bump it up.
Yeah, exactly. And then do keep into account like how long you're going to keep an item for, right? That's an important factor on how far you push it. You have a 160 bit. Yeah, go for it.
Sorry. So the ring that I hate the most that I have right now is the Platinum Cross ring because I can't get a potential and it's obnoxious. I assume the logical upgrade for that would be the Kana treasure ring because I actually can clear Princess Snow now.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And then
just not lucky yet because I've killed it twice and no dice yet.
Well, the big thing is that we have after the current this week's update, we'll be having the anniversary update, and that is most likely going to come with 3 big event rings. So like the big ones that give like 40 all stat and 25 weapon and magic attack and shit.
Right.
So those will probably be your springboard into getting Mezzo and drop on rings with like really good stats, and make it so that you can maintain your kill speed very easily, but also making sure that your Mezzo explosion isn't, leagues away from being able to also do some proper damage.
Absolutely. So to clarify, those 3 rings will come during anniversary, which when is anniversary? Is that going to be like May sometime? Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, we could probably look. So the thing, we know that Haste Plus is going to be March 30th until April 12th, and we know that the current Hide Rose. Let's see, it's going to start on March 16th. March 16th to April 12th would be only 4 weeks, right? So that would be kind of short. So it's probably going to be 6 weeks, I'm guessing. So probably either late April or early May to start with that update.
Cool.
Probably around there.
Because I was actually going to go for the ring previous, but I needed to get a character to 210, and I realized that my Terror Burning character was actually on Windia because I hadn't fully committed to reboot yet at the time.
The Flame Ring, you mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I deleted that character and made my Fire Poison, and I was just under the window, and then I had a bunch of real life stuff come up, and I wasn't able to get that ring, and I was
I see.
so ticked. But at the same time, you can only do as much as you can do, and I think that the journey in this game overall has been that feeling of like, I need to learn to not want to be like, oh, well, I didn't efficientize every portion of this event, so like, might as well quit. Just do as much as you can do, and then just enjoy what you can do, and be okay with losing out on potential value.
Yeah, just not valuing what you have based on what you missed, but based on what you got, right?
Exactly, and I feel like I got a lot out of that event anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. But going for those rings, I actually feel like my account's set up in a decent way that I could easily go for those rings, for example. The 3 that are coming in the anniversary event, and so you're saying use those to make drop rate gear because they have such high base stats, is that correct?
Well, they might become, basically they're like hybrid gear in that you want to get some damage from them, but you would also want to get some dropper mezzo, and it just makes more sense to go for dropper mezzo gear now. But just it's whatever stat you get, that's just what that ring becomes. Does it roll drop? It becomes a drop rate ring. Does it roll mezzo? It becomes a mezzo ring. Does it roll more stat? If it rolls 21, maybe you keep it. If it rolls 21 is like kind of like the what do I do here, right? Because it's a lot of stat, but it's also pretty easy to roll, so it might be something you roll over to go for drop or mezzo first. Because you really want the drop in mezzo to go because you want more nodes and you want more money, so that you can use the money towards star forcing first, so you can get everything up to 17, and then once it's all there, then you can start min-maxing on the gear, on the stats of everything, and then hopefully you'll be able to do Helix better, and then you can move into the superior gear and this really distinguish then what is drop or mezzo and what is damage gear, and then really make the distinction and recube things as they are necessary. But up until that point, it just, the potential that something rolls determines what the function is the piece gets.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Because cubing is just too expensive to just willy-nilly start re-rolling everything. You'll just...
Man, but it's so fun.
It's fun, yeah.
So not
but you
fun
need to get the mezzo and drop
something.
rate first so that you can get the income to warrant that fun.
Exactly. No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah, otherwise it's just, it's fun, but yeah, you're gimping yourself. You're not allowing yourself to move into the next stage
that's
that way.
moving into the shooting yourself really hard on the foot territory rather than just making a couple of happy little accidents along the way.
Yeah. So when it comes to the pieces specifically, so when it comes to cubing, I'm not a fan of buying a whole bunch of cubes. I usually advise people to only buy cubes for pieces that you're going to either transpose or for your weapon. In your case, your weapon is so that's a tier 3 boss and a tier 5 attack that will eventually want some upgrading, especially if you're going to skip Abzo, right? Then there's going to be a bit more pressure there. But also
For
since
the
it's
flame.
But since it's Fafnir, it's not that amazing. You see, like the tier 6 flame even is 52 attack, so that's 13 extra weapon attack. But you know, since weapon to stat is weapon attack to stat is still like at least like a 3 to 1. So like 13 extra there. Actually. That's like 39 stat value. So that'd be like a flame score of 39 on something, which, you know, once your CRA gets closer to like in the 70s or in the low 80s, the same value of hitting a tier 6 on your weapon would be like the same as going from your CRA at like 80 flame score to 120, which is like beyond endgame, what, you know, billions and billions. So then it becomes the necessary logical next step. But until you're at that point, and as long as you don't have anything that you're transposing, I think for flames, the main thing you want to flame is just the highest level pieces that you have with flame score, right? Those have the highest, the biggest bang for your buck. So you're basically looking at, as long as you don't have Abzo yet, you're looking at CRA pieces, looking at the Tyrant Cape, and then looking at the Pink Holy Cup. That's like the main pieces that you would want to flame on, and then try to approach the number in the progression grid, right?
Right.
Yeah, just as soon as something moves beyond that and it's no longer the lowest, then you move on to the next one, right? Like you mentioned, and then you just like little by little move that up. And then once everything starts approaching the number, at that point it's probably better to start moving towards the weapon. And then, yeah, you could buy some extra to make sure that you don't land on like a horrible flame on there, but even then it shouldn't be the end of the world, you know? It's more one of those things to just speed up the bossing rather than something you need to be able to kill monsters in a map.
Absolutely.
So that's what I would say with flames. And then of course once you go into the Abzo, then those will take a little bit of a stab with flaming. Make sure that before you do the whole Abzo thing, because that's going to be close, that if you haven't seen it yet, you check the Transfer Hammer video, because it talks into like getting the fodder gear so that you can upgrade the fodder gear, you know, with like 30% off event, and not having to safeguard, and that way you save, I think it's about 500 mil per Abzo Lab up to 17, and since it's 4 pieces, that's 2 bills saved that you can spend on potentials instead, so that's a nice little extra amount of money.
Absolutely.
And that should help you move into Abzo in an efficient way. For that, if you do get the Abzo pieces, because let's say you do get good flames on the other stuff already, but you're making more flames and you really, you know, you don't want to start throwing them on the boss accessory pieces, because maybe there's a better chance that you ruin them than... Although, you know, you could, I guess, like, the Mechanator Pendant is a good example. Like, that's where I would want your pieces to be, honestly, if you're going to keep them for a while. So, like, even if the Condensed Power Crystal is going to end up going up to Legendary to be a drop or Meso piece, that could do with a better flame. And it does have flame advantage, even though it's a lower level. It can still, like, reasonably get, like, a 40 to 50 flame score. So that's still reasonable on that.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah, depending on if you don't really find a better earring before then, if you're going to commit to making the earring to legendary, you might as well pick another one with a better flame. But honestly, if this flame is like the 24 and 4 is like the best flame that you have, you could also elect to just throw some new flames that you get just on the one that's already epic and then just move on from there. That's gonna just come down to what the flame score ends up being. If you want to, you know, be 100% sure, you can always use the flame cost calculator as well and see how expensive it is to roll a certain flame. And then compare with how expensive it is to get to epic. You know, that gets a little bit too too nitty-gritty. That's more like what you prefer, you know. But if you hit something that has a way high flame score, you ditch an epic, like always. But if something has like that flame score and the other thing is already epic and Starforced, I don't know. It's almost like the time to get things to epic and to that is not maybe worth. I would just throw some extra flames on it eventually, and then you'll get it to like 40 plus, 50 plus, and then it'll be close enough and it'll be fine. That's more how I look at it.
That makes a lot of sense. And realistically, those earrings could eventually transfer. You know, as soon as I get superior earrings, those earrings could go into being like drop rate, for example.
Yeah, and also if you do get another one with like really good potential and you upgrade that one instead, this one could also transfer hammer into a reinforced, and then you can use the reinforced as fodder, and then eventually transfer hammer that into superior, and that way your epic potential can still go through, and a little bit of the Star Force as well, so that way you can still maintain the value, which is a cool
that makes
way.
a lot of sense.
Which is another way.
I've been holding onto a solid pendant for when I one day find myself a Dominator pendant to send, because I have that horntail necklace that's double prime line 6% luck.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's nice and simultaneously unfortunate, because I'm like, there's nothing I can get. I can't even go to a Chaos horntail necklace with this thing, because it's like, you can go to
you'll go to, like, with a Chaos, maybe you go to Legendary, right? Or if you get a Dominator, you go to Legendary for drop or Mezzo, and then you just switch to this one for damage.
Actually, that's a good point. Make like a Chaos Chaos horntail necklace or something along those lines that is actually going to be my my drop rate one, and then this one I keep for bossing.
Yeah, since it's already 12, and then like for the Mechanator, I wouldn't do that because it's also already Legendary, so it's already really close to getting, you know, drop or mezzo, so that one is too close. But if it's unique and 12%, I would just keep it there. And then eventually, if you get a Dominator or something, or a Superior, and like the Horntail Necklace has no value anymore, then you transfer it into a Solid, and then into the Mechanator, and into a Dominator, and then you just, you know, flame that Dominator for transposing into Sweetwater, and then it already comes as epic, and that way you maintain the value there.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna write that down as well.
No, you can make sure you have a future plan for the pieces, right? Because, you know, you just row with the ores you have available.
It's one of those things where, like, the Horntail Necklace feels simultaneously so good and so bad.
Yeah, so how can you make best of a unfortunate situation is by, you know, taking the most damage out of that you can now, and, you know, set bonus, shit flame, whatever, but set bonus and good potential, and then later it basically is 100% epic potential scroll.
Oh, absolutely. And so I'll go ahead and make a drop pendant, so that way I can keep that for later upgrading when one day when I either find 10 primals, which I don't even know how to freaking do, but we'll get there.
Yeah, no, we don't craft those. And honestly, if you find that many primals, I'm still very much in favor of just making Meister rings, getting a very good ring for a long time, and then eventually you can transfer that into Superior. And then maybe even the Superior into Slime Ring if you get that stuff. So there's future purpose for that as well.
That makes a whole lot of sense. So just keep going for the Arcarium drop.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. As many Dominators, because Dominators is the same thing.
And then it will drop for me.
Yeah, well, that's one of the big benefits of drop rate stuff as well. It's like getting 100% chance for a bag for sure, but it's also scaling up on backups. From Arc, from Princess No, right? Getting those extra Kana treasure rings, because both for Dominator pendants and for Kana treasure rings, you've got double purpose. Like you can use them as themselves. You can use the transfer hammer. For one, you can transfer hammer. For the other one, you can transpose. But then for both, there's also like a double transfer hammer future for Dominator into Superior into the Source of Suffering from Varicella, and for Kana treasure into the Superior into the Slime Ring. So they both have that purpose as well. So you're going to need a lot of them, probably at least like 20 of each throughout your career on your character. So you can never really run too many arcs and too many Princess No's.
I'm going to need more inventory slots, but yes.
We're going to need a bigger boat, yeah.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. I hope that we somehow get some kind of equip storage in Reboot, because they're basically forcing us to hold on to everything because there's no trade, but we have the same amount of inventory space. It's like feels a little unfair here.
I already get nervous about my inventory space. Imagine what it's going to feel like when I actually have backups in my inventory.
Yeah, well, that's a time where having the money from having your drop and mezzo gear and having an event is actually the most fun part. Is actually either, you know, getting your goal and getting to get rid of all the backups, or just at least blowing up a bunch of backups so that you create some inventory space so you can reprioritize the space, reallocate it for the more important drops. You know. that becomes a nice secondary benefit. Yeah. So for So we talked about cup. So that's mainly the flaming part, right? So when it comes to the potentials, I would just purely focus on getting accessories up to, like, everything is epic and has good lines. There's at least 6. A bunch of them has already 9. That's very solid. So I wouldn't really touch that because, you know, you would have to at least get unique and then reroll with Master Craftsman's, which gets very expensive to make anything better. And if you're going to do that, I would just go all the way to legendary. So we're going to do that with accessories now because they have a low amount of junk lines and they have the possibility of the utility, and they don't they're not the pieces that we require for damage. We require WSE, boost nodes, arcane power, and then the Abso set and the CRA set kind of, they boost that as well. And the Abso is on the way. CRA is already in a really good spot. CRA can be worked on flame-wise, but that's going to slowly be working. So for the belt, I wouldn't push any further than this. Right now it's good where it is, but you probably do want to get, and in the Transfer Hammer video you'll talk about that as well, you start working on the fodders, mainly on the pink bean belts, and start gathering those so that you can eventually fodder and transfer it into Superior once that comes around. It would have been great if you had exactly what you have here, but then on a pink bean belt, because then if you could you could just keep Star Forcing the pink bean belt and getting backups, and then eventually just transfer that straight on into the Superior. Now this one is already 150, so this one cannot transfer into anything. So that value is kind of lost on this belt. So that is more on the, like, unfortunate side, but that's like the only piece that you have this with, so that's totally manageable.
Yeah, and I figured there would be definitely things that were going to be like minor setbacks, like for example the Zakun belt. But like, you know, I'm happy to hear that there's only one, but I wouldn't be bothered if there were like 100 things that you were like, well, your account is shit in this way, that, you know. I don't actually mind, because like that's what the whole progression session is for. Yeah, no,
I would say like the only thing that's like not perfect right now is the belt, but everything else has the purpose. Because like the shoes, you can also be like, oh, that's not great, but we can transfer hammer it into 150 and then hammer that into the Abzo. So you already have 100% epic, and you already have like 10 star plus on the way for epic. So it's really cool because and this one, it doesn't really have a set bonus, but it would lose its flame, so it would be a slight downgrade. But what you can do is, if there's a 30% off and you're like prepping in the future for Abzo, is you could just hold on to your shoes, and if there's a 30% off, just send Penciler shoes to 15, and if it booms, you just, you know, put the trace into another Penciler shoe, and then hold at 15, and then if there's a 5, 10, 15 event, you can bump into 16, transfer it into the 150 shoes, upgrade that one to 16 again, transfer it into the Abzo shoes, get it to 16 again, and then just safeguard the last star, and boom, you have an epic 17-star Abzo shoe. And then the only thing you have to do is get an OK flame on it, and then work on the potential later. But at that point, you probably don't have money because it's a, you know, Star Force event, so all of your money is going towards Star Forcing. But that way you can safeguard the already the made investment, so nothing is lost yet there. Gloves, same thing, but you have another step. You have a 130 glove, 140 glove, 150 glove, 160 glove. You just transfer it the whole way up there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So just make sure as I'm upgrading Abso. And last question. I know that we might be getting close to time. I'm not.
Yeah, we just went to the time. Yeah.
What would you like? So for example, I got 2 stones from Damien. And a single stone from Lotus. So obviously Lotus I don't have to clear again before I can get anything. What would be your suggestion as far as like pieces to upgrade in like, as far as like what order, like?
Yeah, so we only need one for Damien, right? You only need the shoulder, so that's it.
Oh yeah, because I don't need my weapon, huh?
Yeah, so the main thing would be to collect like Ramaru weapons, probably, right? The 150s, and just hoard those up until there's until there's a 30% off, and then just try to send it to 15, see if that works. I would do that after you work on your drop a meso gear, though. That's like most important.
That's priority.
Yeah, that's priority.
Drop a meso. Cool.
And then
that makes me feel better, because now I can just go kind of crazy on making drop a meso gear.
Yeah, it would drop meso, and it probably, so if there's going to be some kind of like DMT or cube sale in the future, that would be ideal for you, because that means you could also work on your secondary and your emblem, because it's probably drop meso gear to make more money, then spend that on your secondary and your emblem, and then and in the meantime, build up a bunch of fodder. Then wait, and then start looking for a 30% off event, and start sending a bunch of stuff to 15 to wait for 5 to 15. Give you a little bit more time to get all your Abzo pieces in a row. Then you get your Abzo pieces. You slowly start flaming it, right? Because when you transfer hammer, you don't replace the flame, so you can already pre-flame the Abzo. And then wait for a 5 to 15. Bump it all to 16, transfer it into Abzo, bump it to 16 again, safeguard it to 17, and then boom, you switch into 17 Abzo basically.
Brilliant.
And then
that's super useful.
Then you're doing Halux, you're doing soloing Lotus and Damien easily, and then in Lucid parties, and then as long as you have the levels, you can also start looking for will parties, but that's going to be arcane power and level limited.
And then we'll be in the main guild. It will feel amazing.
Yeah, and then you'll be in main guild by then. You
Big
have bigger guild skills. You'll be able to just blow things up. Yep.
Can't wait to blow things up.
Yeah.
Items and monsters.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Monsters and items alike will see explosions. I mean, it's your class, right? You're basically the demolition class, so you should be...
Exactly. I mean, we used to be the richest class in the game, because we just drop 500k on a boss and
everyone throw money at you, and then you just drop those bags, yeah. And then the first 2 Zakum armors would be like...
Yeah, exactly.
There'd be a timer. You had to put like 6 zeros in front of the bag so that you could copy the number. Otherwise, it wouldn't. Or some weird shit with that. I remember. You're working on the Monster Brocker badge, medal. Sorry. Medal?
I need to start actively working on it, but I think I got a bit confused on it. I guess this is a quick question, but
okay.
Because like I am doing Monster Park every day, but I feel like I heard somewhere that you need to do it within like an X amount of time, and so you actually have to.
No, there's no limit. No, it just keeps counting.
You just keep going.
Yeah, make sure that it's counting, because some people like run it for months and then realize that it was never counting in the first place.
Because they didn't take the quest. Or
yeah,
whatever.
they didn't take the quest at all, and you're like, oh,
I better make sure I have.
I have to restart. Yeah, as long as you go in and Spiegelman has like a like the dots on top of his head, then you should be good.
The book.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it keeps track forever. Yeah, no worries.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, for Abzo, like the order, it's always like whatever is the biggest upgrade, right? So it'd probably be shoes first, and then gloves, and then cape last, I imagine. Because Tyrant base stat. Some people even opt out of going for the cape at all, because the Tyrant cape by itself is just so strong. Like, let's say that you actually end up rolling like some god tier flame on the Abzo cape once you do like CRA, because it's CRA cape and cup, right? Until you get to the Abzo pieces. Let's say that you actually roll some amazing potential on there. You could also say like, fuck it, I'm just gonna get like 1 or 2 stars on it, and I'm just gonna completely skip the Abzo cape. Because even at 17 star, an Abzo cape, it's not amazing. I think it's got like 17 weapon attack or something, and this one starts with 30.
And you don't think the set bonus is valuable enough or worth it enough?
Yeah, it might just be worth it enough, but again, you have to spend a disproportionate amount of money for how much it becomes worth it. And if you send that money forward instead, it's what I call like a sideways upgrade, right? If the flame is too good, you're looking at, and I need to roll a better flame, and I need to do good Star Force costs, and I need to roll the potential just for the set bonus to become worth it. Or you can spend all that money forward into Star Forcing past 17, into working towards arcane stuff, into min-maxing your secondary and your emblem. Like, you're going to be Star Forcing your secondary to 20 and everything. Like, you're probably going to do that a little bit sooner than other people because you're not moving into the Abzo weapon. So you probably rather want to be focusing on that than on, if it's not necessary. But if your flame doesn't get good, then you might, you might end up rolling the same kind of, you might end up with the Abzo cape. But at that point, you do the maths, right? You look at, okay, how much would the 17 star be? What is the set bonus? Oh, yeah, it's worth it. Okay, and then you move on.
Absolutely.
But if you don't have to, you don't.
Exactly, and I might not. It just kind of depends on what I end up finding with the flame and making sure that things look clear.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, keep the CRA where it's at, like potential-wise and everything. Yeah, we talked about Star Force. I think for the hat, eventually, I think you aim for cooldown reduction, right?
Probably. There's so much
Legendary.
cooldown launching on Shadow where I wouldn't be surprised.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's when you're going into like black cubing, into legendary and everything. So that's past everything being 17, past transposing a dominator pendant, past full Helix set. So to kind of place that.
So that's like way later. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And last question. I'm so sorry.
Very last. Go.
When I'm rolling all of my, because I'm trying to make drop and meso gear out of my rings.
Yeah.
When I'm rolling them into legendary, is that also using black cubes, or is that like a roll them with like master cubes, or like I guess what's the priority? Like getting
so from what I know, mathematically, whether you from epic to unique, it doesn't really matter what cubes you use. It's all about the same rates, for like bang for your buck wise, efficiency wise. For tiering up from unique to legendary, I usually would advise to use the cubes that you plan to use afterwards, so that mainly to avoid like, oh, I'm gonna buy 50 black cubes to tier up, and then you tier up in the first 3 cubes, and now you have 47 black cubes, and then you would, like, you know, if that's your last project or you don't have anything else to work on, then rolling with black cubes in legendary instead of rolling with reds would lose you more efficiency than you would have gained by tiering up with the black cubes. So that would be unfortunate. Usually in practice, I buy a little bit of a mix of both. I buy like a few sets of black, a few sets of red, and I kind of like mix and match. But like, yeah, people saying like you always have to use black, I don't think that's great advice. But saying you always use red, that's also, I don't think, great advice, because, you know, it can get very frustrating. So usually, yeah, efficiency-wise, you use the cubes that you plan to use after you tier up. But in reality, I usually mix and match a bit, yeah. A bit, not a bitch.
Okay, sounds good. A bitch,
yeah.
Mix and match, bitch.
A little bitch. Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty, I think that's mostly clear, so...
Okay, mostly clear. That's what we go for here. That's the gold standard for these sessions. It's mostly clear.
It's one of those things where you get a lot of information and you're like, "Okay, I'm ready to run with it," and then I guarantee you, I'm going to sit down and be like, "Okay, what am I turning into drop gear again?"
Yeah, we can look at the exact pieces, but it's mostly going to be the ones that you already have. I mean, you have the ring already. Like the black bee mark is already at 15. So that might be, you know, not one you immediately go for, but probably dependent you push up because it's already unique. But honestly, it might be the black beam mark at this point. You could look at maybe Sweetwater stuff, but the thing is, you kind of want to avoid. Yeah, there's always the possible downside of doing the black beam mark up to legendary and then rolling like 30% luck and being like, well, fuck, now it's a luck piece. Now I need to make another one. That's again one of those, you know, unlucky to be lucky kind of things. But yeah, that again, like whatever the potential becomes, it kind of shows you what it is. But you do have to kind of get over unique at this point, except if you roll like a 966 or something on unique, then you hold on to that. But otherwise, unique is basically just the intermediate, the in between getting to the good part, getting to legendary.
So mech pendant to drop rate or drop / meso.
Yeah. And then
also horntail pendant, find something that I can actually make into a decent drop meso, probably.
Yeah, just start with the things that are already, like, because everything that's 6% or 9% at unique at epic is going to be maintained or improved, right? Because even at legendary, you're going to have a 6 or a 9% line, so you're not downgrading. Absolutely. There. You're purely upgrading. So like the Treasure Hunter John ring, the Silver Blossom ring, the Condensed Power Crystal ring, and then probably a CHT pendant, the Mechanator, and then you have 1, 2. Then you already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, and then the event rings come in, and you're almost done. Then you just need like an eye, I guess. So if you find another eye that drops with like a decent flame, you can use that. If not, then you can upgrade this one, you know, kind of see how it comes.
So everything will go basically to drop, because realistically, even if it's legendary and I need a like damage set after I make my event rings into drop gear, I can just re-roll them at the end of the day, and they can just be percent stat again.
You could, yeah.
Perfect.
Because then they basically be equivalent of like 17-star. It'd basically be the equivalent of like a 17-star kind of treasure ring, of a 17-star Meister, of a 17-star reinforced, and of a 17-star superior, as long as you don't have the set bonus on that last one. It's basically the equivalent. Yeah.
Perfect. That really clarifies. That was the biggest burning question I think for me is like when to go into drop rate, and the answer is literally right now.
Yeah, basically now. Yeah, some people might do it right after the secondary and the emblem. Some people do it before. If you have enough damage, you do it before, because then you can do the secondary and emblem faster. If you really need more damage first, you can do secondary and emblem first, and then do it right after.
Perfect. That answers, I think, most of my questions, or / all for now. I just am not smart enough to have the questions I need now.
That's fine. I mean, I'll upload it on YouTube. You watch it back. You go through your notes.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, in the chat, we can always iron out the final things.
And at the end of the day, I mean, the Moses are looking big.
Yeah.
So if I need another prog session, like eventually, we'll go for that.
You just do another one. Yep. For sure. Well, hopefully that clears up most things.
Yeah, sorry for taking a little bit of extra time. I appreciate you sitting in with me.
Yeah, no worries. That's me going always a little bit longer. But yeah, hopefully we get everything well and sorted. And with this week, we'll get the patch notes, so you'll see when the events are, and hopefully that will guide you a little bit. Maybe a cube sale soon. That would be cool for you. That would be nice.
Cube sale would feel amazing, man.
Yep. But yeah, other than that, I wish you good luck on everything.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome, and I'll see you around in chat.
See you around.
Okay, bye-bye. Cool. Oh, that was loud, sorry. Cool. Yes. There you go. Prep, another one. Another satisfied customer. Pew, pew, pew. Good shit. Okay, cringe. So yeah, if you guys are in a similar situation, hopefully that cleared things up for you. But yeah, as you see, this is not, you're probably not in a similar situation as this. That is really, it's really uncommon to come across, unless you're like my mom, rolling her 36% attack in 12 cubes. Apparently I mistweeted. I said 18 cubes. Apparently it was only 12. My bad. But yes. So if you guys like the session, cool. Hopefully it was informative. Your totem is almost done. Maybe it's done. Congrats on your training session. If you want one of these sessions, check the description of the video, or leave a comment in the YouTube section, and you could be one of the lucky 2 winners that I draw every month to get a free session with me. Cool. And if you are ever bored, or you just want to hang out, or you want to get some knowledge, or you have any questions, drop by the Twitch stream. I stream live every day between noon and midnight UTC. Check out on twitch.tv/Scardor, and you can use all the resources here that I conjured up here. All of those are available in the Twitch chat, and you can check out all the I'm blanking so hard for the word. Not computations. What is this? What is the tool? What is the $1 word for computations? Doesn't it also start with a C and an O? Guys, what is the word? Calculations. My brain could just not get to the word calculations. Thank you. You can check all of the calculators, all the calculations, all the numbers, all the raw stats, and you can also ask for the interpretation of those. We have a bunch of helpful people in the chat up here. They might be trolling sometimes, but they're really nice and super helpful, and they would never lie to you. But yeah, on that note, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one, or I'll see you in the live chat another day.